Good morning, good afternoon, good night, and welcome, guys, to another episode of Eat Fruit Pod EFP. I'm your girl, Kay.
I'm your girl, Killa. 4 A's to you.
And how are y'all doing? Killa, how was your week?
It's been an interesting week. I'm officially over adulting as it is, and I kind of just want to fit my house inside this little book and go outside and just call it a whole ass day. You know, we'll take a little chapter from the Kanye West book.
For real.
It hasn't been a bad week, not by any stretch. Been thinking about like higher learning and what that's going to look like in like the next year or so. Been feeling like this weird melancholy, and like it's not anything new. I've been feeling like different feelings on different planes for the last I don't know how many months, but it's just like this little melancholy, and I kind of have to feel like it's because everything's new. You know what I mean? Like sometimes you get anxious. I'm not really an anxious person, so maybe I'm feeling some form of melancholy perspective of it. But yeah, other than that, like it's been a great week. Like a lot of feminine energy, and I need like a little bit more masculine energy in my life. And I think I'm just gonna have to pray about that, you know, because I'm not inviting no Toronto mans to my crib.
Listen.
Oh gosh. Oh, okay.
I literally just had this conversation with someone yesterday, and I was trying to show them, like, yo, that's what it is. Like, that's what it is. A lot of y'all moved inappropriately in the past. That's why y'all don't get the invite again. Y'all didn't know. I told you where the bathroom was.
And you decided to give yourself a fucking tour. Like, how dare you?
And ask for gas money before you left.
I didn't even hear that one. I just let the door swing.
Welcome, guys. I'm gonna behave myself tonight. They don't want the stories. These Toronto mans, they do not.
Watch Waiting to Exhale one time and like, this is what happens.
Listen, everyone falls in love sometime. Sometimes it's with every win. All right, someone must. I hear y'all. And there comes a point when you will say.
Pop in on that. I can't do it. This
the scriptures.
I can't do it. Like I cannot be soothed. I cannot be quelled. I cannot be tamed right now. Honestly, I thought maybe I was coming close to the taming of Big Killa, and then I was just like, no. It's not, it's not my time yet. It's just, I don't know. It's not my time. I'm still supposed to be out here in these streets, but not in these streets. But not.
Who?
Back
Who? Listen. Did you hear about the unfortunate incident where that lady, she must have showcased, I think it was about 400K or 40K that she had in like her home and then got robbed very swiftly? It was apparently in Toronto.
My apologies. I just more times my FaceTime just be wilding.
No problem. But did you hear about that?
She showcased 400,000.
Like she posted a picture. Her face wasn't in it, but it was like it looked like a drawer in the nightstand. And it's just like, I don't know, Shorty. I'm sorry that you lost that, but like, I don't know why people want to post that
Somebody
stuff.
switched you out and somebody robbed her for it.
Somebody robbed her very swiftly after sharing it on social media.
On the scenes, you like remember there's like a point in the Bible where like I don't know if God's talking to David or who he's talking to, and he's just like, "What did you show those men that you had in your house?" And he's like, "I showed him everything that you gave me." And then God was like, "And that's what they're going to walk out with when they come back for your land." And that's like basically one of the ways that like Israel got like swept away and blah blah blah. Like I always think of that. Whenever I see people just like front paging on that, I'm just like, I just remember God saying like, you don't know who your enemies are for real, apparently, and like you don't know who you're showing what, like, and instantly that's always what I think, like that oversharing on Insta or like I got a bag of things I want to sell, but I kind of feel a ways about how I present it off the strength that I don't want people to really like feel like, oh, that's what she's sitting on, oh, that's what she got, oh, that's what she's here for, and like they just come and take your shit because it's been presented to them. Always where my mind goes. It's just like I even can't attempt.
1000% agree. 1000% agree. So, yeah, but how was the rest of your week?
Literally just like, actually, like I said, it was a for the most part a down week. Like I came to some revelations. Like Big Killer's just not ready to be tamed yet. She's just out here in these streets, but also like kind of goes into the topics I sent you on like conditions, and it's like, what conditions are being put on me? What conditions am I putting on myself? And like, where do I have the power to change some of those things? So we've been getting into that for the last like couple of weeks, just in general. How about you? How was your week? How was things popping for you?
It was good. Lots happening, but it was good. I thank God for another week. I think I've been losing a bit. I'm starting to notice it in the mirror. So I feel like, because guys, I really have an addiction with eating out and Uber Eats. It's really bad. So I've really been like, nah, I'm going to eat at home. And it's not that I can't cook. It's just the way they've made the world. It's so much easier at times. But I really been like, no, I want to make sure what I'm putting in my body. I know that I'm cooking everything with like grapeseed oil or like a coconut oil, like you know what I mean? You just know every single thing that's going like into something. So with that, I feel like even sometimes with like the skin issues I have, I've seen it been clearing up. I really haven't had like any juice or pop. I slipped up like one day the other day and I got like a McChicken combo with 6 nuggets on the side and an ST. It wasn't like pop, it was an ST. But I'm just being transparent with the people.
But then I got some nuggets on the side. And she threw it in there like a real Libra. Like I just had a little bit of this and then a little bit of this.
And honey as a dip, because honey and nuggets.
Liquid honey, yeah. Definitely a thing.
Right? Definitely. But in the night, I made like
a mustard flavor. Ooh, do you fuck with the mustard flavor? What flavor is it?
Yes. Okay. I've had that one. Because I've been rinsing Chick-fil-A a lot. Like every time I go, I get like 3 of every sauce they have. But the ones that have been my standout favorites is like the Chick-fil-A sauce and the Polynesian and their barbecue. I'll say so far.
Like it's different everywhere you go, because like McDonald's, it's like sweet and sour.
Yeah.
Sweet and sour if you're a real G honey, and then like barbecue on the off days just to like offset
just to spice it up,
Yeah, just a little bit.
I've actually been kicking it old school lately with my fries. I've been having some ketchup and fries.
There's a phase. There's always a phase for like ketchup and potatoes. 100%. Yeah, no, I've been steady on like the plum sauce or the sweet and sour sauce. Picking like what you can. Even the honey for the French fries at Whack Arnold's actually. I definitely do that thing.
For real. So yeah, it's been a season of cooking at home, and I've also been prepping. I know I've been mentioning to you guys I'm working on content, so because it's holiday season, people like always kind of ask me for cooking videos. I'm working on something to kind of like also put out, just little stuff for like holiday meal ideas, whatever. So that's going to be coming soon. So I'm excited for that. And like, I just love food. Food just makes me happy. Like just talking about food, like guys, you don't understand when God blesses me with the bag and I'm able to like travel and get my Anthony Bourdain on, like do writing, all of that, and like link up with like top chefs all over the world. And like chefs are some of the realest niggas like in this world, like realest people. They have some crazy stories.
Yeah, they live some ill lives.
They do.
Working with them in the kitchen though.
And wine people, yeah, not in the kitchen, but like the outside, like when Gordon Ramsay is not in the kitchen.
Yeah, yeah. Like, yeah, they got their little pulls. Like because they're nerds. Like curiosity, like fuels them, runs them.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, but there's something about just like, you know what I mean? You go to Italy, you know someone there that owns a restaurant, chop it up with them. Then you go to fucking like Paris, like it's just like what a beautiful yes. Okay. But that's pretty much how my week has been.
Nice. I mean, that is a good way to segue. Like my life would be like a chef. I'd be out here touching spots, knowing people's in the restaurants and all them ways. Yeah, that is a good life.
Man, to me that's luxury. Like farm to table shit. You know what I mean?
100%. Oh, 100%.
Who?
Culinary experience. Yeah.
It's all that for me. Because when I think about it, sorry, I'm just like reading a bit. When I think about it, like no matter what, humans are gonna have to consume something to stay alive as long as we're here, like on this earth. So that's a world that's forever gonna be evolving. Forever, something's gonna be happening because we gotta eat. Yes, it may come to the time when like niggas are in tubes and whatever, but still whatever's being fed through that tube, they've created the science to know it's gonna hit all, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just my weird thoughts, but I digress.
You watch things like Dune and like Brave New World.
Yes, which they shadow ban heavily. I was like ready to have a whole in-depth conversation about it. I went through Reddit, I went through Twitter, nothing. It's like they really.
For what?
But if you,
For what?
For like Brave New World and like
really?
Topics like that stuff. Yeah. Because when I get into my shows, I be getting my shows and like I need to talk to people about this.
Like there's no discussion.
Reddit. Like it would be like one-off stuff, but I know based on like watching that, people would have way larger conversations. Like can't find them.
Weird, but not weird.
Right. So okay, let's get into our topics for this week.
All right. So I have the power of conditions down first. Like I said, I was just like really taking in conditions and like maybe situations that I was seeing over and over in my life and just kind of like figuring out how I felt about that. And that's where I got this topic from. Like, am I good with the conditions in my life? And like, how do I recognize the conditions in my life? Do I recognize them as good or as bad? And in all truth, some of them are good and some of them are bad. But like in the end, it was just like really taking that deep dive and saying, so what are the conditions that I don't like? Are they hindering me? Do they stop me from moving forward in a way that I feel like I need to, or that I have a goal to? Or is there room for like me to switch up my conditions and maybe switch it in with conditions that are more helpful for me? And yeah, like that's basically what I've been on for the last couple of months, where it's just like, let's pick through some of these conditions. And a lot of them I have to realize that, yeah, I've been kind of experiencing them over and over, but it came time for me to kind of look in the mirror and say, so where was I inviting them into my space? Why like the image of them just kind of kept coming back? And I'm going to be honest, like I don't have all the answers on that, but like even just exploring it and kind of having the courage to open up to it and say, all right, well, there's something that might need to be remedied here, has made I don't know. I'm gonna be honest. Like I'm living in a perpetual state of flux, and I've just come to a point where I'm okay with it, off the strength that like transitions aren't always like they're fluxy. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, that's where I'm at pretty much with conditions. For me, what was really annoying me is I just felt like I was being limited. And that's where like the word condition came from, because I started making a differentiation between love and unconditional love. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like everybody's supposed to kind of like aspire to unconditional love. I aspire to unconditional love because it's without conditions. It's probably the only thing you're going to have that's not going to have a condition on it, outside of the fact that there is no condition on it. And that's kind of where like I'm basing everything off of right now. So that's where like my little rabbit hole of conditions brought me. It brought me to unconditional love as the ultimate lack of a condition. And like, how am I going to implement that into every space of my life, and kind of like create a system moving forward?
Definitely.
So have you been able to like look into some conditions in your life?
Yes. And I was like, when you sent it, I was like looking at it. I actually looked up the definition, and they actually have like more than one definition of like even how the word conditioning is like used, like a noun versus like a verb. And it was just like the part that like stuck out the most to me is just like it all ties back to like vulnerability.
100%.
And if you're gonna live like even like we were just speaking on, just like in the zone of like just saying yes, you know, and like that to me is like unconditional. Like you're gonna say you have unconditional love for me but push monogamy, then is it unconditional? Like there's so many deep like touchy things, but when people say unconditional, this is a part of like the conversation, you know what I mean? Like
Right.
when we witness, people can say what they want about like Jada and Will and Beyonce and Jay-Z, but like to some level of degree, we're witnessing, as far as what I'm seeing through media, because I obviously personally don't know them yet, but like we're witnessing unconditional love. I'm witnessing a woman that, who are we to say she stepped out of her marriage? You know what I mean? And like I was watching this interview with Vibrations, and it used to be the show on BT like way, way, way back in the day. And there was a well-known woman. Her name is I hope I'm pronouncing it right. So Humad Ali. Oh my gosh, I'm totally butchering her name. But she basically wrote a book about like telling Black women about themselves, or so it appeared at first, right? But basically, like in the interview, she spoke on even the fact of like even the idea of like how we love, even as like Black people. I know that's not fully what we were like discussing, but I'll bring it back in, right? And like the idea of even our love and Black people, and like us being introduced to colonizers like way of love, and like the white woman being upset that her husband would step out, but like what was our way prior to like us even encountering them, you know what I mean? We didn't even know or know those structures. So we were loving our partners, we were loving our people in whatever world that was, which was definitely our original world, unconditionally, right? And then we came into another world, have gone through all this stuff, including slavery as a people. And then we were like conditioned to think what they tell us unconditional love is. And that's why it's just like, dial it back to vulnerability and like being present. That's a huge part of like being unconditional, because when you're present, when you're vulnerable, when you are responding and not reacting, you are able to be unconditional with a person. That's why when you meet certain people and you feel like you can tell them anything, and sometimes you're like, why? It's because that person creates a space where you feel like you're going to get that unconditional love, whether you realize it or not. Like one of my uncles, he's also like one of my best friends. And when I reflected on like what you said, I'm like, it's because I know I received like unconditional love from him. No matter what I've gone through in life, no matter what people thought they were telling him to like get me in trouble, he's never loved me less. I can't say he's like, you know what I mean? He just unconditionally loved me. I feel like that when I thought about it, I'm like, that's someone I could say that, like, you know, or some people use the example of a mother's love. Like, think about it, how many times you fucked up, how many times you got in trouble, how many times you got beat, but I still ate every night. I still had somewhere to sleep every night. But is that unconditional love? Who knows? Because unconditional love is what you make it based on the conditions that exactly everything you're saying that we set for ourselves. So that, like, while I'm talking about relationships and I brought up, like, you know, intimate relationships, friendship relationships, family relationships, it gave an example of each because as you can see in each of those bonds that you have with whatever tiers of people you're dealing with, you kind of establish an unspoken set of conditions or dynamic between whoever you're exchanging that like energy or entity with. So it's just like you guys kind of formally or informally make and agree on conditions. You know what I mean? A lot of people, when we're here in this first world, 21st world, whatever, some of us unconsciously just decide, all right, we went on a first date. Like a lot of rules or conditions get mixed up because why? You're able to create your own. So it's just like, I think what will help with people creating their own conditions and being aware of others' conditions is just actually having a conversation because like you don't know until, yes, you can read people's body language and involuntary whatever, but still there's something still about verbal or depending on the type of communication you could do, but as long as that person, you agree that that's even the communication form that works best for you. Like I don't really necessarily love to like talk to a bunch of people on the phone. There's only like a certain number of people that I will actually like, and even then I'm not a person that's like constantly on the phone. I hate being on the phone. I rather you text me. Do not randomly FaceTime me. Like those are conditions that I weirdly like have, right? And people that learn, like, you know what I mean? They get to know. Like, so
Right.
yeah, I think, yeah, a successful way of like, for me, like when I think of like the relationships that I really love and I really like adore and I wouldn't want them to change for the world, I think about it, I'm like, yeah, because my uncle doesn't pressure me. He understands like I'm busy or sometimes like shit. Me being busy is watching Seinfeld on Netflix. Like,
Yeah.
and yeah, like you just create conditions or rules with people, but like everyone has their own set of rules. So it's okay to not follow what we've been taught. Cause and that brings me back to my original point I was saying at the beginning where I was just like, they came to a land and taught us like their way of love and all that stuff. They took us from where we're at before we never knew like these idealizations and all the stuff that we have of what we consider to be, you know? So
Right.
you have to be present to connect with that somehow to figure out what it was and what you want to do.
I agree. Um, yeah, I like the whole notion of unconditional love in the sense that like you're not putting conditions on like a very strong principle. But I also like the whole fact of like you brought up no FaceTiming me out the blue. Like you don't talk to me after a certain amount of time. And it's just like there are good conditions. Like not every condition is like to be put away with. You know what I'm saying? Like some conditions help you build a boundary system because that's what that sounds like to me. It's just like, well, I have a boundary system after 10:30. And really you should have a boundary system after 10:30. It's a healthy way of moving. And it's just like finding that balance between like, yeah, everything you do is in and through unconditional love per se, but like you also know when conditions work for you. You know what I mean? Like I gotta wash my hair at least once every 2 weeks. And like one of the conditions is I need to detangle condition before I put that shampoo on, or else it's gonna be an extra day's work for no real reason. You know what I mean? Like sometimes it works, and it's just like, where do you come down to like that point where you just start like removing some of the ones that aren't necessarily so good for you?
There are flags.
Like there's flags, and like what, like I've been trying to remove certain things, but like I have to understand that what I've added conditions to my conditions. You know what I'm saying? Like I might know that there's a bad habit or a bad behavior that I need to get rid of, and I consider that a condition. But my mind might have set it up a certain way where like I've made room for that condition off the strength that like I believe it helps protect me, or I believe that it helps keep me safe, or I believe that in the past like it's done some form of good for me, so I kind of have to keep it in the back pocket. And that's something that I've been really like taking in about conditions, is that like sometimes you get used to them and you start weaving them into places that like maybe you shouldn't be weaving them into, or like it was appropriate at that moment. And I guess the one thing that I'm noticing, like when it comes to conditions, is like they shift just like the time, just like the weather, just like everything else, kind of thing. And just coming down to that conclusion, like, yeah, the flux is still there, but I'm starting to kind of get a better picture of like what should really be staying, and like what kind of needs to get like axed out or xed out in a cutthroat manner. You see me?
And that's like definitely the being present, because you're paying attention to your body. Like you're gonna notice. It's kind of like if you're walking on the street, you see someone, you notice. You're present, you're paying attention to what your first response is. Is it, oh shit, this person? Or is it, oh my God, this person? Like, you know what I mean? You notice how you naturally think before you catch up to what you're gonna do. Like your brain thinks something first. It's like you do that and apply that to everything. I feel like it helps to guide you to be like, okay, why do I feel this way when I see this person? Why was I not like thrilled at first to see them? Or like, you're just gonna pay attention to things. You know what I mean? Oh, when I eat this, my belly runs me. This is something that my body cannot take. Yes, I see other people eat it, but it reacts to me this way. Like, it's literally, you pay attention to the responses that your body is giving you. That's like what the whole experience is about. Like even, when I speak or I'm like looking into all those like spiritual people, whatever, and like, that's a common thing that they talk about, your body always giving you the signs and the signals in some way as to everything you do, everything. So for our ladies out there, when your period is coming, you feel things that like necessarily you couldn't see right away, but you feel things or know things about your body, or you're like, yeah, it's coming. You know what I mean?
I was really hoping that I wasn't feeling the signs last week when I decided to eat all that dairy and raw meat. And I really thought I was going to be exempt from those conditions until they slapped me in the face 3 days later.
Jeez.
Speaking of the conditions. But yeah, I don't know. I'm just kind of like figuring out that life is really an ebb and a flow. And no matter how many times I have to figure that out, it's just like, I really think that I can sit down and just kind of chill for a second. And life just really isn't about sitting down and chilling for any second whatsoever, at least not for me. So yeah, I was just thinking about all of that, all the things that help it get to that point,
Nah, that's dope. That's a dope topic. So yeah, you guys definitely like think about it. What are conditions you've created without realizing? Put yourself in that position too, and look in your relationships. Like, don't only make it about you, but think about, like I just said, some things that you maybe made a condition to your partner without realizing or even asking them if they were okay with that. You know what I mean? So yeah, that's a good one.
Even in your fucking job and your like adult life, like I noticed that like people want to give me like some real rookie ass contracts, and I'm just like, what am I inviting with these conditions? Like why am I consistently seeing these rookie ass conditions? And I'm just like, it caused me to have to like take a little deep dive into maybe like what I'm projecting or what conditions I'm holding on to say like why you think these conditions are okay for me as well. It's a little food for thought. And then because like I'm all in the flux and I'm in like all these little places, like I've been realizing that like I got acquainted with a new virtue. You got like your truth virtue, you got your love principle and all that good stuff. You got your vulnerability. And we were talking about, well, we touched on vulnerability a little bit. And it's just like, I've become acquainted with open-heartedness and just like almost using that as the bridge to like utilize that vulnerability. And basically just like always keeping I guess you would call it an open mind, but like an open mind through your heart. Whenever anything happens, just off the strength that like, right now I'm in a process of like new beginnings. So new things are coming in, old things are going out. The first thing that you think to do when that type of movement happens is this, like you automatically want to clutch everything close to you in like a space of safety. Like you're trying to create a safe space really quickly. But what happens is as soon as you do this, like you break the flow, but also like nothing comes in, nothing goes up. So you don't actually receive the blessings that you're meant to receive under any given circumstance. So like one thing that's been sitting on me for the last couple of months is just like learning that open-heartedness, but like having to wake up every day and kind of relearn it. So I can have a day where I get the whole lesson. I get the lesson of the open-heartedness and whatever the blessing really is supposed to be. And I feel open and I receive it and I'm happy. And then like maybe tomorrow I wake up and it's not the same. Like I don't necessarily have that feeling first thing in the morning. So I have to like create it. I have to like remember it. I have to say, okay, so this is how I'm gonna make my way through my day with this open heart. I don't care what it feels like to me right now. I don't care what it looks like, because I know good and well, like whatever time my blessing decides that it's gonna come in, it's coming into an open heart, so I'm ready to receive it. And it's a hard thing because it's basically you having to tell your heart that you don't care if it hurts. Like you feeling pain isn't the main situation here. The main situation is what we're going to be enriched with, or what we're going to let go of and essentially be enriched with after the fact. And yeah, that's pretty much the gist of like my experience with open-heartedness. Do you feel like you've seen that anywhere on your journey? I'm actually shook. Like, I feel like after four decades, like I would have caught that a little bit sooner, but caught it in the like fourth hour. But do you feel like you've seen anything like that in your life, or even an example through somebody else? Like I've seen other people be like super open-hearted and like, maybe I took it in as bravery, and I guess it is a form of bravery, but I feel like it's been a life-altering, what's the word? Epiphany.
Yeah, definitely. It's like when you go to church and you hear an amazing sermon and you go to the altar and you bawl and they touch you with the olive oil and then you're like, yeah, I'm gonna do it right. And then Monday you fuck your boyfriend. Like it's real. It's part of the like human experience. But I think the beauty in it, and I think where the open-heartedness comes from, is when you do quote unquote mess up like that. I even had to stop talking to myself like, no, you didn't mess up. You had a flawed moment. You know what I mean? And I feel like that's the beauty, and that's the part in open-heartedness that people overlook, and they're thinking about, oh, I just didn't do what I was supposed to do. No, it's the fact that you realize you did what you weren't supposed to do, but you understand that you weren't supposed to do it. It's the understanding. It's the mentality. It's the thought process behind it. And it doesn't mean you may not like, fuck, I know I'm not supposed to be eating white bread, But damn it, sometimes I be having that potato bun and that brioche bun, and you know what I mean? Like sometimes you're just like, fuck it. But it's having the understanding, you know, sometimes another thing that messes me up all the time, especially being from Toronto, when I see dread niggas with like white women. I'm like, how are you so, I know I'm on a ride today, right? All I had was water. You see that and you're like, yo, you're like, yo, what happened? Weren't you just like brother polite on the road, like da, 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 da. But here you are with the snow bunnies. Not that there's anything wrong with that, you know, but it's the open-heartedness. It's the open-heartedness. It's the understanding. Like,
yes,
have you unlocked the Narnia to realize that, like,
yes, let's move open-heartedness to dreads that only date mompy white women. Because I like
it is something I see a lot, and I don't understand.
I like where this is going. Because there's bravery, and somewhere there's compassion, somewhere in this. I'm loving this.
It's just something that happens a lot. I'm just saying, with the message they, you know, preach and the teachings on I Celestia the first, like I just
the empowerment. Right. Yeah. The empowerment, and then the like, so hey, like, where's the reflection of self here? Toads understand that. And that might be a whole situation of like, maybe the dread man, as much as he's preaching his preach, like maybe he needs to open up his heart a little bit.
He is open-hearted, and that's how he.
But you think so? Like that's what you think. Maybe he needs to open up his heart a little bit more to something, like, you know, like a lot of times you think like, oh, I'm being open-hearted, but like you can't really choose where and how you're being open-hearted if you're really being open-hearted. Like, if your open-heartedness has conditions on it, it might not really be open-heartedness, you know? And that's, I guess, that's the goal. Like, yeah, like you said, it's not really about the mistake. The mistake kind of has to be made in order for you to have a clear understanding of what going on, but it's just like, you can't really choose. Like your heart doesn't get to pick and choose when it's open and when it's closed.
Yeah, like I feel like that's a part of like the wisdom and the maturity people talk about, where it's just like, yo, somebody really fucked up in your world, in your book, like whatever that is, like, yo, like you fucked up. And here you are saying, you know what? I'm gonna give you another chance in my space. That's literally open-heartedness. It's not that you're being taken for yet. It's not that you're whatever, but you made the decision now that you have all the information that you feel like you're okay with, to be like, you know what? I'm going to let this slide. You know what? I'm going to show up to work tomorrow. You know what?
Those ones, they're just, I'm not going back. I'm not. You're like, I don't care. I'm looking for jobs right now. I'm on Indeed right now.
Right now, like on the company time. How you mean? They block the site.
Yo, those ones are like mad petty to me. I'm just like, but why? Why can't I flourish?
Why can't I flourish?
Who says I don't have 15 minutes to flourish? Bro. That's not your time. It's my time.
I feel like that's the real open-heartedness when we look at these people that we're like, oh my gosh, Gandhi, and da-da-da-da. When you follow their path, it's experience and them fucking up or overstanding. So that's why even sometimes when something happens, or like, you'll be like, yo, that person, like, I don't know how they forgave me. More times it's not even nothing to do with you. It's the fact that they've literally gone through something like that, or maybe had some sort of experience in relation to that has opened up their mind, opened up their heart to be like, you know what? Not that I agree, but I could see how this has went down. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So for me, that's like my like understanding and like vision on it, and open-heartedness, like as someone I'm trying to like really tap into this like monk lifestyle, that's it right there. Like, you know what I mean? It's between you and God. Like, I'm just here to witness, like, have my own experience. And it's like, even back to that woman I was talking about, I really should have known her name. Sorry. But like, she was even talking about, even with relationships and like, um, us being like, oh, like, we're upset with our men when they step out, our partners when they step out. And like, she was like, yo, the fucked up thing that we do as women is we waste our time and energy, like, being so concerned about who and what and where and when it's like you can literally use that energy to like focus on yourself, care for yourself, love for yourself, find a new activity, hobby. Like, it's not fair to you. And this doesn't even just apply to like relationships. That's where the idea came from. But like, it's not fair to you because, like, say if we had an argument or something, Killa, it's not fair to me to take up now 12, 13 hours of my day replaying the whole situation or what made me mad, whatever. First of all, that's not even healthy. And number two, like, it's just like that is not, it's not helping. It's not helping me. It doesn't take any way time from you. I'm the only one that lost that amount of time. And now you're stuck on here looking stupid. And whatever that is, whatever that is, you know what I mean? I think about times early on in my childhood, I get bullied at school and all this time I spent at home consuming about it, at this consuming it, instead of just doing something about it. Not that that's the solution for everyone. Obviously, there's different scenarios and cases. But for me, I felt like all it took up was for me to rise up one day and say enough is enough. You know what I mean? So yeah, you can't let others rob you of your time. Time is something, literally is the only thing that like we really have control on it. Everything that we do is surrounded by like our time. And with open-heartedness, you understand time is a real blessing and virtue. It's not the money, it's not all that, it's the time to do what you want. That's what niggas want to get richer for. That's what niggas want to get wealthy for. That's what, you know what I mean? It's time to do what you want and whatever, like, that's what it's all about. So it's just like open-heartedness is understanding that people are going to invest the time, use the time, spend the time, do what to create time for other things. The way it's all about like breaking up of time. So it's just like, yo, having the open-heartedness to be like, all right, my nigga, like, I just didn't receive that good morning text from you today. Now do I spend the whole day consuming myself to say, what this nigga, who he texted, da, 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 or do I go to the gym and work out, drink a gallon of fucking water, send some emails, create the cover art for my business? Do I get along with my motherfucking time?
Honestly. And like, we didn't speak to it, but like you touched on it, and that made
Even
me
more
happy.
of a
That made me happy because that's the whole point of it. At the end of the day, is just like it all comes down to like a bag of tools to help you love yourself and get throughout your day, so that no matter what it is that you're encountering, you don't feel like you have to do that closed off, like I need to create that instant safe space. You are that self-governed safe space that just knows kind of how to deal with whatever comes to you, because you realize that you do have your time and that you do have like a bag of blessings, and that there's other things that can be done other than going down the rabbit hole and like losing your time. You could utilize your time in spite of whatever the F is happening, whether it be positive or seemingly negative. And that's the awesomeness, is that the end of all of it is like unconditional love, vulnerability, harmony, open-heartedness, all of these virtues. Like the end of it is like the ultimate self-love that like pretty much just makes you attractive as fuck. You know what I mean? Like the whole law of attraction, like all these spiritual laws are basically built on those type of things. So yeah, like I was really loving that. But that's where I'm coming to now, where it's just like, yo, those 6 to 8 months that you actually like had to hug off the strength that like somebody dealt with you a certain type of way or whatever. It's just like, it's not up to them to build a narrative for you. It's up to you to do so. And like, if you're set up a certain type of way, like it's a nicer narrative for yourself. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, the same vulnerability, compassion, the what's the one that I got the other day? Optimism. As much as you think like, yeah, you should know all those things, like optimism. And just the way it rolls off my tongue now, I'm like, yeah. Like these things are.
There's something about the sound of that. It just opens you up. Open-heartedness. Like it's even the sound. Like they say spelling, it's actual spells. Like you could hear, like like you literally have to open up your mouth to say that shit. For real.
Yeah. And it's hitting. Like I guess it hits a little bit different because I'm open to it hitting differently. But even like the enthusiasm that comes with saying the words, like it's so interesting where I've personally been conditioned to not like necessarily like have an emotion about most things, or like you feel like you don't necessarily have place or space to have an emotion because like once again you've learned to be closed off to things when they happen. You know what I mean? And it's just like being able to stay open and experience things slightly differently now is like a whole game changer on perspectives.
As you see, you realize your time in comparison to the world's time, you realize it really is my time. Like, yeah, that's a clock and that's what that says. But like, it's similar to like you go to a party. That's why I love like going to parties with you, because I feel like it's just like very cohesive that way. Like, you know what I mean? The conditions are aligned, right? But like the conditions are aligned, right? But it's like you go out with a group of girlfriends or a group of people. You're gonna have the person that constantly is looking at their phone to go home and not necessarily having the best of time. You're gonna have the person that's just like, I'm just here to dance, have a great time, like fuck all else. You're gonna have the person that's like constantly having to have something to do, whether it's rearranging the bottles, going back and forth to the bathroom, saying like just doing a lot. Like you have the different entities. So it's just like everyone, even though you're in the same situation at the club or at the party, the time is being allotted differently. And that's why we see or hear people speak about experiences so differently. And as fucked up as this is to say, there's some people that attended Astroworld that they may not say it now, but they had the time of their lives. Even worse, that people pass away and they know they made it home and got to see Drake and partied and all this shit. They had that's a story they're gonna remember for the rest. That was their experience. Mm-hmm. Some others' experiences, that's the last time I got to see my you, or I got to et cetera, et cetera. Condolences again. Horrific situation. So it's just like time and it's literally, the more up you get, the more up people you talk to, they found a way to master their time. With that, you're able to, meditation is what? Creating the time to be like silent, to be like in your thoughts, or like not in your thoughts, or getting out of your thoughts, however is a proper way of saying it. But like, yeah, man, the more I have gotten out of the corporate like world and go into it the way like manage my time, the more I've been able to be open-hearted with others and understand why my mom talks about the things she does when I call her. And to me, I'm like, what does this matter? Like, you know what I mean? Just the little things in life. But to me, that's open-heartedness as well. Like appreciating you now a lot of the time, where your brain can even go those ways to like be like, all right, this is what is and this is what isn't. Like,
who the heck is really taking time to like minutely go through open-heartedness? Like, you're absolutely right. Like you have these lifestyles that are kind of like built for you. You're just jump in and you're like, oh, I'm gonna jump in, and before you know it, you're like, oh, I'm not jumping, I'm not running, how is this happening? And you get out of it, and then little things like vulnerability open-heartedness like hits you in the face with a honey bun and you're like, so was that simple? And then you hit the nail because you're just like, because I'm taking back my time. And now as I take it back, like the blessing of it is that all these little virtues that are coming back with it help me to utilize my time to the best of my ability, which in turn makes me like a happier individual and like has me flourishing and gives me my 15 minutes of flourishing when you're trying to shut it down with your blocking of like my future and shit. I digress. No, I'm joking. But yeah, it's just like, it's so interesting that like the whole journey of life is just like a journey into like finding yourself a little bit more, or like knowing yourself a little bit better, and like understanding where you actually do stand or sit or crawl or wherever it is that you're going to do in that space that you reside in. And I guess like figuring out who's going to reside with you at some point, if that's a thing, or if it's not, you know, no conditions, no stress, no stems and sticks, no seeds, all that good shit. But yeah, it feels weird. It feels weird, and I think it feels weird off the strength that like the world ain't talking about this. Like this ain't the world's bag. And I guess like you said, the systems kind of made it so that it was never going to be.
Literally, because everything we're witnessing of the world is like in Hunger Games, you know, when snow would come on, and then that's when the people in the district would see him, and like they're literally, Instagram is taking you away from open-heartedness. Social media is taking you away from open-heartedness. Like all those things for me, but conditions I set for myself, me listening to podcasts, that is a part of me practicing open-heartedness for myself, because the things I listen to is something I'm curating time of what I want to hear, right? Versus like, oh, I have to go to school between 8 to 4:30. Or else I am no longer able to attend school, where this world now is readjusting in a way, or showing us, well, they had to adjust, because with us being forced to stay home and people not being able to go into their offices or whatever the case is, it's just like people realize, oh snap, that morning, yo, when I remember the mornings that I would be working downtown in the financial district, and even the step that led from me stopping to take the TTC to taking the GO train to work instead, that was a part of me practicing like a snippet of open-heartedness for myself. Because it was like the way the bus was pack up, the way the train was pack up all the way to Young and Bloor, like I was like, nah, boss, like nah, boss, this is crazy. And not that on the GO train it was 1,000 times better, because by the time you get off at Union Station, it's a shitstorm walking through. But
at least it's like a 23-minute
that $3-4 sacrifice, right?
Yeah.
That I put on to be like, all right, I need a seat. Because if I'm gonna go to work and give these mans 8 hours of my day, I at least want to sit and have a nice little view before I gotta go get this to get $150 approximately a day.
That part. Word. It's all starting to make sense. Like even as we're talking about it, I'm like, okay.
Real shit.
Things can't go on.
Real shit. And that's the part. I'm happy for my girl. You know, she was talking like she just got a job and her job has unlimited PTO. And I'm like, from time it should have been that. Because the world is set up like, it's for the reason why the bank is not open overnight or accommodating to our times versus accommodating to the corporate world's time. Or the doctor's office. They're not saying, oh, we're open. The doctor's office is open 3 to 6 in the morning, because that would be accommodating to when kids are done school, the world is done work. So you actually can book appointments on your time to go to the doctor's office. What do you got to do? Use one of your days at work to go and check on what? Your health. It gets deep.
I mean, yeah.
It gets deep. So it's literally structured for us not to think about that stuff, for us not to think of ourselves, but to continue doing their work. And that work, it's not our work, it's their work, right? Because our work would mean we would have our time so we can practice things that we want to do and things that make us happy, right? You ever think when you take a vacation, what do?
What you want to do.
So it's like, why we gotta take a vacation? Island people, when you think about it, they don't take vacations.
They live in paradise. No,
they just live every day. They do live in paradise. They really do. To me, that's paradise based on conditions like I'd be cool with. You know what I mean?
100%. And I guess it's just interesting that like the grass always looks greener.
Definitely.
Very clearly an illusion. Like,
because the mentality that was placed on, you know, I'll bring it to the island that I'm from, like Jamaica, like, you know what I mean? It brings it to that mentality, because if their mentality was evolved or growing, like how we can talk about these things, we're talking about this stuff to certain people in Yada right now, they're like, yo, yeah, Jetsa. Like, you know what I'm saying? So their mentality was switched. And then now you open your eyes and you're like, whoa, look at this palm tree out my window. Like, that bears coconut. Yeah. Like, so then now, to me, that's paying $2, two coconut, cold pressed coconut waters for $8. Versus the man that has a coconut tree right outside his window that can climb, which would also help him lose calories, build his upper strength. All these things we give Good Life money for. We give Planet Fitness bread for. Words. Mindset. Yeah, man.
Yeah, man. That's pretty much how I feel about open-heartedness, the conditions in my life, whether I've put them on myself or whether they've kind of seeped into my cellular structure.
Definitely. So is there anything else you want to talk about for this week?
No, this was a great conversation about self-sovereignty, and I'm all about it. Yeah.
Well, guys, this has been another week's episode of Eat Fruit Pod, EFP. I'm your girl Kay.
I'm your girl Killa. 4-8.
Yeah. I'm really here like trying to fight ordering off a DoorDash. God damn it.